Welcome to Deep Treks. I'm Dan Shipton, and this is our Tuesday edition of Deep Treks. We are studying Second Thessalonians chapter 3, and we're going to be down in verse 6 today. We are addressing laziness. Now, I know that's not a topic we usually talk about on here. Often I have to tell us to back off, to relax, to take a break, to take the Sabbath, because I'm one of those people, like many of you, who often get caught up in being a workaholic more than I do about being lazy. But the truth of the matter is, some people are lazy. Some people are lazy in how they study the Bible. Some people are lazy in how they serve God. And some people just are lazy. And Paul's warning them of this. And part of this comes out just like other issues that he's had to address in Second Thessalonians, because Paul is trying to address the situations that arose from his first letter. He had told them Jesus was coming soon. And some of them took that to mean tomorrow or next week or next month. They stopped working. They stopped providing for their families. And so they were not doing the things that they should do. And we see in this passage that Paul's addressing this. He calls it idleness, which is the same as laziness. So let's see what it says here. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we commend you, brothers, to keep away from every brother who is idle and does not live according to the teaching that you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow our example. We were not idle when we were with you, nor did we eat anyone's food without paying for it. On the contrary, we worked night and day, laboring and toiling, so that we would not burden any of you. We did this so that this because not because we did not have a right to the help, but in order to make ourselves a model for you to follow. For even when we were with you, we gave you this rule: if a man will not work, he shall not eat. We hear that some amongst you are idle. They are not busy, but they are busybodies. Such people we command and urge in the Lord Jesus to settle down and earn the bread they eat. As for you, brothers, never tire of doing what you know is right. Now, there's some things going on. These people some of them had stopped working. In the early church, especially, and in churches today, even, we often take collections for the poor, those who can't provide for themselves. And so Paul is addressing this because these people were lazy. They weren't working to provide for their families. They weren't providing for themselves. And in truth, what they were doing was they were taking the money that had been gathered for the poor and the widows, the people who could not work physically, and they were taking the money, the food, the donations for themselves. And Paul is calling them out on it, saying, you're lazy, and he who does not work does not eat. This is important because we have to look at what's really going on. This isn't about somebody who's sick or somebody who's not able to care for themselves. This is about somebody who is physically capable of being able to go out and get a job. Paul says, go out and get a job. Don't just sit around here. Get to work. And then he even uses his own example, saying that when we lived amongst you, even though we were ministers, and ministers are supposed to be cared for, he talks about that in Corinthians, they are worthy their wages, as he would say there. And he says here, they had every right to accept wages. But he says they didn't, to be an example to these people that they should work hard. Paul was a tent maker, so he had a second job. I get that because I worked bivocationally. Every church I've ever been in, I was bivocational. Now, I don't say that as a prideful thing. I just say there were churches that couldn't afford to pay a full time pastor. I gave them full time work, but I had to earn a living to pay for the bread on my table. And so I had a second job. And many pastors do this. Many pastors take less money than what they should be paid so that the church can survive. And it's not that they don't deserve to be paid, it's that they're helping out the church, it's that they're worried more about the mission and the ministry. And Paul was worried more about the mission and the ministry. So he did it as an example. And I don't want us to get caught up and say, well, ministers shouldn't be paid. That's not what Paul says at all. He says he did this as an example to them, but that they should have been paid. He just did it on his own, of his own accord. It wasn't that he didn't have the need to be taken care of. In other places, he was. I mean, he was given money to move on. The biggest thing here is these people are lazy. They're taking away from the church and money that was supposed to be set aside for the poor, and they're basically just sitting around doing nothing, waiting for Jesus to come. And Paul says, stop it. Don't be lazy. He even tells the people, don't hang around with these kind of people. If you go on and look at this, our instruction is to make note of them. In verse 14, he goes on and says, don't hang around these kind of people. Don't associate with them. And I think that's because sometimes laziness begets laziness. When somebody's just hanging out and being lazy, it's really easy for them to say, come on and join me and be lazy with me, and that's the idea. So I want to encourage you today to look at your own life, not because we're not working, but just look at your own life and say, are there areas maybe I'm lazy? Maybe I don't do the things I should do all the time. Maybe I'm not out doing the good I should do all the time. We're going to talk more about how Paul says to address these people who are doing these things as the week moves on. But today, we just want to focus on the fact that we are called to do the work we're supposed to do. We're supposed to take care of our families. And by the way, biblically speaking, that means taking care of our elderly parents, grandparents, and people like that, because it's our responsibility. There were widows that had need, and the church has helped out, but it was the family's responsibility to do that for family first. And many of us kind of grew up with that attitude, and we understand that. And so we get what Paul's talking about. You should work to take care of your own, and then the excess you should give. In fact, one of the things I always loved that I learned about John Wesley was John Wesley told us when it comes to money, you should make all you can, save all you can, so that you can give all you can. We give out of the excess that we're giving, and we should do all of those things because we, too, have been blessed by God and we should pass those blessings on. I hope that you do that in your life. And I hope that you continually are blessed and that those blessings flow out of you, whether it's in words or deeds or financially, as you can help others. May God bless you on the journey and may you take those blessings and bless everyone around you that you can.
That's today's Devo on Deep Treks. No matter how deep the questions or dark the doubts, there's always a path forward. Reach out at deeptreks.com with prayer needs or topics you'd like us to